What's going on, everyone? Hope you're having a terrific day. I want to talk about my story, and I've had DPDR, anxiety, existential terror, dread, fear of myself, pretty much psychologically every fearful and depressing thing you could, I think, imagine. I don't take medicine, and I live up in a hut, and I live a very simplistic, holistic lifestyle right now. But I'm going to talk about how a life of suffering for me led to me living my dream life. I've always dreamed about living in a hut on a tropical island. I know people are like, what? Who dreams of that? Well, I've always dreamed of a simpler, living a life where it's centered around things that truly matter. Things that I felt like truly matter, like being in the present moment, waking up and hearing nature, being close enough when the rain falls I can put my hand out and touch the rain, being able to drive to the beach. The beach is just a 12-minute drive for me. Being able to snorkel dive every day. All of these things were something that I always, a lifestyle I wanted to embrace, a lifestyle of feeling like I didn't live in like a city with Walmarts and Starbucks, but I lived in a smaller community that was surrounded by people who were living in the present moment. And after a life of suffering and grinding and trying to make money and all of this stuff, I finally decided to go live my life, to go live my dream life, and here I am. And we're going to talk about kind of what led up to that, because my life has been horribly difficult. Anyway, so the first time I experienced sort of the DPDR was after my dad died, and I went into we got lunch while we were making funeral arrangements at the Wendy's. I don't even really think I was hungry, but I walked into the bathroom, it was just so overloaded with just everything, and I just looked at the toilet, and I remember it was the first time I kind of saw through the veil. I saw through my ego, and I just realized oh my God, I am awareness, and it just terrified me. It was like I was looking at the toilet, and the toilet was inside my awareness, is what it, if you've ever experienced the derealized terror. It's like you're terrified of becoming on the movie Lucy, where she's I'm everywhere. It's you're terrified of that, right? Anyway, so that didn't last that long, but it was terrifying. It was it led me down more and more episodes where that had happened to me, and it was extremely terrifying. Every time I had sort of one of these mind freakouts or mini mind bends, or whatever you want to call it, it was I started feeling less and less normal, I guess, and then I would have these DPDR attacks that would throw me out of my mind for 8 months, and then I'd slowly come back online, and there's no cure to DPDR. And the reason there's no cure is because you're glimpsing awakening. That's what DPDR is. You're glimpsing awakening. You're realizing that you are not your ego. You're not your thoughts. You're not your story that your brain's been telling you. You're not all this stuff that you think you are. And that ego shuts off, and you're in pure awareness. You're am I everywhere? Where am I? Where have I gone? Right? I don't recognize myself. I don't recognize the world around me. And, as terrifying as that is, that's the beginning of your true self being born. There is thousands of years of literature to back this up. Great Dark Night of the Soul. Eckhart Tolle suffered years of depression and anxiety until one day he awoken. This is the sacred rite of passage for humans. is to awaken from their false self. Die before you die, as the mystics say. And as Jesus says, to crucify the false self. Does it mean like physical? No, it means your identity, right? The flesh brings death, but the spirit breathes life. So I'm experiencing these years and years of suffering, like so much suffering. And one day, my mind just falls apart. Like, I call it the mind bend. I'm reading a book called The Mind Bend. And when I publish it, you guys can have a chance to buy it and support me. But I call it the mind bend. But basically what I'm explaining is like I have a dark night of the soul from St. John of the Cross, where it's just like the psychological scaffolding that just falls apart. And like I'm watching it implode. Like I'm watching my mind like fold in on itself. And I'm just like, I'm like seeing the steering wheel because I'm driving. I don't know how I'm driving, but I am driving. I'm seeing the steering wheel, and I'm feeling those same feelings when I was a kid. And after my dad died, I was looking at the urinal, and it was like inside of me. It was like, and it felt like I was like coming out of my shell. My awareness was like coming out, is what it felt like. And I remember thinking to myself, like, my mind was like, you can't survive this. Like, you're never gonna be happy again. There it is, right? You're never gonna be happy again, right? You're never gonna go on to live your life because of this situation. I'm experiencing this very horrific situation where it's like the worst DPDR I've ever experienced. It's like I feel like I've went crazy, essentially. And this lasts for like 8 hours. And afterwards I felt mentally gone. I felt like it was the lowest point of my entire life. Like I just was like, I snapped, you know? I don't even know how I survived it. The grace of God, maybe. I didn't know what was happening. I just kept living. I don't know why I didn't give up. I just kept holding on. I think something deeper inside of me told me like there's hope, you know? This isn't the end. Maybe this could be the beginning. But from everything my mind is telling me and feeling, there is no hope. But then it was like it's like a faint whisper of something deeper was like, just go with it and don't stay with it, you know? And I guess I trusted the faint whisper and I just stayed with it. And afterwards were hell for a while because I didn't know what was happening. I was just stumbling around. I talked to doctors. They didn't know what happened. One doctor told me that like it was a defense mechanism. Another doctor told me I need to get on SSRIs. I don't know. I don't think they even knew. There's no framework in the West, in Western pharmacopoeia for awakening. There's no framework, even though there's tons and tons, there's mountains and mountains of evidence to back up that this happens to people all the time. It's rare, but it can happen. I mean rare, I mean by like maybe it happens to like 1% of people, but it does happen. It's not impossible, but they don't ever tell you that, right? They never do, right? So they try to pathologize like something, an awakening. And when I found out, it wasn't until like months later I found out what was actually happening. I just thought that I didn't know what I thought. I didn't know what had happened to me. I didn't know what was actually going on, you know? But it was like there were moments where I would just close my eyes and I would just feel like there's no voice in my head. There's just peace. And I found myself often just closing my eyes. And people would be like, are you okay? I'm like, yeah, but every time I close my eyes, I'm like, just oddly at peace. So I would just be like, I remember I would like be on the bus or something, just close my eyes, just be like, vibing, and people are like, did you sleep? Did you sleep enough? I'm like, yeah. And I can never do that before. It's like, it was like meditation and felt effortless. Like I could just sit down and just there, meditating. It was like I was in a permanent state of being at exactly the state people are trying to chase when they meditate for like hours. It was like I would just sit down, close my eyes, and then I'm in that state all the time. That's kind of what it felt like. But at the same time, my mind was still like feeding me spirals and doom story. Oh, you can't live like this, and this is bad, and what is a mind, and where are your thoughts stored, and all of these existential thoughts. But I learned, I said, you know, if my mind was wrong about the mind bend, then what if it's wrong about this stuff too? So even I started to practice sitting there and observing the spirals, the mental spirals, but not getting caught up in them. So I would observe them, do like a mini meditation. I would get up and I would go on and do something grounding, like work out or clean my hut or make a video or something. And over time, I started to like experience like profound peace and happiness and joy that I'd never been able to experience before. It was like it's always been there, you know, but my mind was just too loud before, and it distracted me from heaven, essentially. And it felt like heaven was always there, right? Jesus says the kingdom is within you. It's like heaven was always there, but you couldn't see it because you were too distracted, right? Be still and know that I am God. Well, nobody can be still. You know, the more technologically advanced we get as humans, the less still we're able to get. And when we do get still, people say, all my friends say, if I came up here, man, I'd go stir crazy. What would I do? What would I do? Oh. And I'm thinking to myself, yeah, I was there too, man. But like, don't you think that's a red flag? Like, don't you think that being still is what you're supposed to do? Don't you think it's a red flag if you can't? Especially if you're Christian. Like, it's literally the teachings of your Messiah. It says to be still. It's literally what the Bible says. Be still, be still, be still. The still small voice. Right? That's where God is. Anyway, I realized that what had happened to me was that the false self was dying, and my soul was being brought to life, raised from death to life. And it was terrifying. And I'm learning to carry that awareness with me and not let it get, not let my mind decide how I'm going to feel and what I'm going to do, but allow my soul to decide that. So anyway, that's been my story. I'm going to keep talking about it. Like, again, I'm writing a book called The Mind Bend, where I'm going to put all this in the book. But if you found this video informative, make sure to comment. I'd love to read your comments. And until next time, I'll talk to you later. Peace.